What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web warrior Fanatic, and today on the podcast we have a very special guest. We have Stretch22, who is a very skilled Marvel Champions player, and he primarily plays heroic content. So that's where you get an extra encounter card every single encounter phase. So essentially, you're like surging yourself like every single turn. Stretch, do you want to give a short introduction for yourself?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on the podcast. Yeah, I've had a YouTube channel for about a year now. Like what Bori Fanatic said, yeah, posting mostly gameplay videos, some strategy videos as well, kind of trying to push the boundaries of higher difficulty gameplay, just because that's sort of how I like to engage with the game and really challenge myself. And so it's a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. No, probably not for everybody, but everyone should play the game that's most fun to them. But it's what I enjoy and have been enjoying sharing that with people over the last year or so.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, that's crazy difficult. I think I've done like less than three horror games, and yeah, I don't know, they're for me. They're super tough. Yeah, thank you so much for making the time to come on. I'll have the links to your YouTube, in the description video. So please go follow Stretch, guys, if you guys are not already. But yeah, basically for this episode of the podcast, there's a particular card that I'm really interested in, and that is a Symbiote Suit. It's a very iconic card in Marvel Champions, and I know that Stretch 22 has, he's very passionate about this card. And I thought he would be the perfect guest to come on to help me discuss this card and figure out, is this card actually good or is it actually not good for like any hero? Yeah, I don't know. Let's go through over just the card like first, like kind of objectively what it does, and then we can talk a little bit more about our opinions about the card. So this is a 4 cost upgrade that came in the Sinister Motors expansion, that is currently out of print. But maybe after this video, you guys won't feel bad if you don't have the card, because maybe someone's gonna like say some stuff that's not so good about the card, and maybe it's not necessary to have the same suit. But basically, it's a 4 cost upgrade. It's a basic card, so you include it in any aspect. And then basically, there's a hazard icon printed on the card, and then your identity gets +1 to all your basic powers. So your thwart, your attack, your defense, and even your recovery stat goes up by 1 as well. And then you also get +10 hit points and +1 hand size. That's alter ego hand size and hero form hand size. Stretch, what is your like first impressions for this card?
Yeah, so as you kind of foreshadowed, I am not the biggest fan of Symbiote Suit. It's really funny how the card is sort of perceived in Marvel Champions community. Like, there are some people who will say like it's literally the most broken card in the game, and it's like overpowered. And then there's people like myself who I would just say it's just not a good card at all. Like, it probably decreases your expected win rate in almost all cases when you include it in your deck. Um, so it's, I would consider it possibly the most overrated card in the game. Of course, that judging something as overrated is a mix of, my opinion versus my perception of the community opinion. And certainly there's like worse cards in the game, but I just see people saying it's like auto include every deck sort of thing, or just very good. And, I think people are sort of enamored with all the positives that it gives you, the +1 to the stats and the hand size and the hit points. But that hazard icon, I mean, it's really bad. Like, um, compared to the benefits you get. Also, you're paying, 4 resources plus the card to get it out into play. So, like, that's a pretty big tempo hit as well. You sort of get that encounter card like before you maybe take advantage of all like the initial benefits of it. Um, so on balance, I would say it's actually just not a good card at all. So
Oh, okay.
that's why I say it's pretty overrated.
Yeah. Yeah, to defend what you're saying about overrated, it's definitely not like anywhere near like the worst card in the game, right? Like there's like worser cards. I don't think that you're saying it's the worst card. By overrated, you mean that it's not a good card, but a lot of people think it's good in the Marvel Champions community, and that's why you think it is the most overrated card, right?
Yes, I can't think of any other example. Maybe I don't know. Maybe somewhere in the game there's some other overrated cards, but if you look on like Marvel CDB, there's a reviews tab, which I like to just browse through a lot, where people can review cards, and I like to post reviews sometimes. because it's sort of fun to write once in a while. But basically, there's like two top reviews for Symbiote Suit, and it's what I was saying, where like one review is like this is the best card ever, and then the next review right below it is like this is not a very good card. So it's surprising to me how there can be such a wide range of opinions. But I think once you really break it down and look at like the positive resource value minus the negative resource value, like I think it is on the net negative for you to play in basically all your decks.
Yeah, so I've seen some of your videos, and speaking of like values, I know that you attribute kind of like values to like, stats and stuff like that. What would you attribute like the negative like resources like value of one hazard icon? Like what would you attribute like would that be like, negative, I don't know, 3 or 4 like effective resources or something like that? Do you have a number for it?
Yeah, so it's generally between 2 and 3 resources.
Okay.
So if you just think about the average encounter card, like think of an extra activation, right? It costs about 2 resources to block an activation. Like that's the cost of like a stun or a confuse or like blocking with an ally on the last hit point. If it's a scheme for like 3 or 4, like that's about 2 resources worth. If you think of there's lots of villain attachments that cost 2 or 3 resources to discard, like that's pretty common. Like a 4 to 6 threat side scheme, a 4 to 6 health minion. Those generally take about 2 to 3 resources of value to defeat. So there's sort of a lot of cards in that cluster, but also what I've done once upon a time, and actually Villain Theory commented on one of my videos once because he's done something similar, but he sort of he did, in finer detail than I did. He sort of went through I think literally every encounter card in the game because that's the kind of thing that he does, and sort of attached a resource value to it, sort of add it all up, to find the average, and he got to a similar number,
Hmm.
which was like 2 point something. So I treat it as like somewhere between 2 and 3. Now, obviously, there's a distribution, right? It's not every single encounter card is not 3 resources.
Yeah.
There's some encounter cards that are completely ignorable. But then there's some Shadow of the Past and Under Fire and Thunderbolt minions that are like, if that's like the first extra encounter card you get, like that's just an absolute disaster. So, but on average, right, I say 2 to 3 resources of negative value. If you look at the +1 hand size, right, that's just straight up 1 resource of value. And then +1 to all of the stats. That depends on exactly how you evaluate extra point of attack or an extra point of thwarting, but it's generally about like 2 points of attack or thwarting equals 1 resource.
Okay.
Maybe slightly optimistic, but that's just about where I gauge it. That's the efficiency we get out of allies a lot. So um, if we consider that +1 buff to the stats, on average, we're only, or most of the time, we're only using that once a turn. Obviously, we can get some additional value from readying and activating multiple times. But sort of the hand size gives us 1 resource. +1 to the stat that we use for the turn is another half a resource. So that's like 1.5 resources of positive value, 2 to 3 resources of negative value. That's how I conceptualize it. And now the missing piece here is the +10 hit points. So the negative value, you get this initial 10 hit points that is positive value. But then turn over turn, I think the costs are greater than the rewards, and so eventually your value is going to cut negative. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. So, I think what I'm hearing from this is, the 10 hit points, it's really great initially, but you have to heal that back up. And most of the times, like, you don't have that many ways to heal up, like, 10 plus your regular 10 hit points, like 20 hit points, to heal all that back up to, like, regain the value on that. So that's just, like, initial value. While, like, the hazard icon is negative value every single turn, right? It's not just, the one turn that you have the symbiote suit in play. And then the stat bonus, it's good to have it on all the stats, but you're usually only using, maybe one of those stats, which is why a lot of people say the more rays that you have, the more value you can get from Symbiote Suit. But, on average, if you only activate it once or twice, it's just, that one stat, and you may get less value out of it. So I can totally see that.
yeah, and that's kind of ignoring the cost as well, right? It's a pretty expensive
Oh,
card.
yeah.
It's 4 resources plus the card from hand. So even the 10 hit points you're getting, like that's obviously a positive value, but you're paying what I would say is a pretty fair rate for it. Like if I'm going to sign up for a negative balance every single turn, I want some like really big initial um, reward. Like I don't think it would be unreasonable for this card to cost like 0 or 1 resource and still be a pretty fair card because of how the ongoing value sort of cuts against your favor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely some negatives for the mechanics of the card. What do you think about the thematics of the card? Because I think the Symbiote Suit is one of the coolest cards like ever. Super thematic, and it's actually really fun whenever, it does actually work out for the player. Like maybe, according to you, and a little bit of my opinion too, is whenever you're playing it, it makes the game maybe a little bit harder, but you can still pull out the win. It feels very fun and satisfying. You have Spider-Man Peter Parker on the art, with that black suit. So that's really cool, and it's very thematic with the hazard icon too, right? So, what is your like feeling towards the card thematically, or do you like not care? You're just looking at the numbers of it.
Oh, I mean, thematically, the card is tremendous, right? It's you can kind of live the dream of, or you create your own story of any character, like becoming the symbiote,
Yeah,
or becoming, I don't know what you say, becoming infected by the symbiote. Is that what they say, or just merging with the symbiote?
yeah,
So that story you get to tell is really cool. I mean, it really embodies mechanically the sort of the the increase in power, but like also the increase in danger. Um, so that's very satisfying. And yeah, when I talk about overrating, at the end of the day, this is a card game. We're trying to have fun. I'm not like going to
yeah.
judge people negatively for including it in their decks or whatnot. But um, yeah, if people are expecting to lean on this card, as a power boost, I would say you're probably not building the most optimal deck you can. But flavor, I mean, flavor is just a home run.
Yeah, yeah. So I do want to give one really quick caveat. I think you agree with me. For the Deadpool hero, I think Symbiote Suit, like for me personally, I think it's all include. And I think that with Deadpool, if you put Symbiote Suit in his deck, he becomes a strong hero. I think that Symbiote Suit is a very good card for Deadpool. And maybe not necessarily like I never played Symbiote Suit with Deadpool in the first deck pass, but I think that for him to garner that like final push, he has the resources to play it because of his resource card, generating more resource whenever you have the acceleration token. So do you agree that is Deadpool like the one caveat to Symbiote Suit to where like it's just definitively a better card for this hero, and he's like kind of different than any other hero in the game?
I believe I would actually, and I didn't know if you were going to transition into like cases where we would consider playing it, because
Yeah,
there are a few heroes I would maybe talk about, but I do think Deadpool is the probably the best case for it. Because we talked about how do you extract a little extra value already. We talked about getting additional readies to make use of the extra stat buffs. But there's also some heroes, like Deadpool being the perfect one, who make extra use out of the plus 10 hit points that just the average, like generic hero doesn't get.
yeah,
So, right, being able to use the chimichanga truck to heal, I mean, his recover is 8, so he can recover tremendously. So he can actually use that plus 10 hit points multiple times,
yeah,
which is not something that can be said for most heroes. So that's a huge benefit. I think if we think about a hero like Spider Ham as well, I have to say this isn't one I've personally played, but every hit point for Spider Ham turns into potentially a resource.
yeah.
So you can really get extra value from that. I had a recent video where I played Symbiote Suit in an Adam Warlock deck.
Oh, okay.
So kind of similar to Deadpool, where he's able to use those 10 hit points over and over again. Adam
Right.
Warlock has the Soul
So
World
world.
support where you can heal all the way up to full, and it's not heal up to your full like printed hit points. It's heal all the way up. So I was interested to try it there. Maybe too hard a matchup. I won't get into that, but I
Yeah,
ended up being very deficient in thwarting. So it's like, yeah, I was super healthy, but I had to flip to alter ego all the time, and then I
yeah,
couldn't keep track of threats. So
yeah,
I do really enjoy looking for those situations where even a card I generally don't think is as good can be maximized. So it's not like I just never play this card. I'm still looking for those opportunities. Um,
Yeah.
But right, if you just put it in just the average deck, I would generally expect its win rate to go down. I played it in Quicksilver as well. I mean, Quicksilver is the classic example of multiple readies. He gets 2 free readies every round, and then can often ready 2 or 3 additional times
Yeah.
during the player phase. So there you start to even out the balance as well. Um, so I have played it there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so for anyone that is like not like doesn't know how Deadpool works, like if you don't own the Deadpool hero pack, the reason why Symbiote Suit is so good with him is with his attack event max effort, he can take damage like through his hit points and then do that back as damage to the enemy. So getting that plus 10 hit points from the Symbiote Suit, he can do 10 more damage than normal. And then like what Structure just saying, he can heal that easily back up because he has a recovery stat of what, 8? So then with the Shimmy Challenge, he can ready back up after he uses base recovery, heal again, so he can like easily heal 16 hit points and get the hit points back. And also with this card's fire, it does sustain damage, like whatever he sustained. So if his max hit points is 19, his 9 plus the 10 with the Symbiote Suit, and he's at 1 life, then he sustained 18 damage. So that attack event can do 18 damage with that, which is really powerful. And I think that's the reason why we're talking about Deadpool as the top candidate for the Symbiote Suit. So what I wanted to ask you, I think a good discussion for us to move on to is, and you hinted a little bit with the heroes that you mentioned, is that is the Symbiote Suit good on any hero that's not named Deadpool? And what I mean by good is, would a hero like lose against this villain with like this type of matchup, but the Symbiote Suit becomes that factor like to change that loss into a win? Because for me, being good and being able to build a deck around and make it work is different than like being a card that makes that difference, right? So like an example for the viewers is like Nick Fury. He's a card that if you put him in and then you draw him in a specific turn, he might change your game, a game that you might have lost, into a game that you're now winning, right? And I think a lot of times with the Symbiote Suit, like a lot of other cards that are very specific, you can make them good by building around them and having the whole entire deck focus around them. But could you have just gotten an easier win not doing that strategy with a different deck? Like, are you trying to force this card to not necessarily even be good, but like work? Like, do you think the Symbiote Suit actually is that fact? Because I think for Deadpool it is. But for any other hero in the game, is the Symbiote Suit going to turn a loss into a win, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think you phrased it the right way. I think some of the terminology I use is like increasing your expected win rate, because I think people who have a positive opinion of the card, they're probably playing it in a game where their deck, absent Symbiote Suit, is already heavily advantaged in the scenario. And so you kind of win in spite of the Symbiote Suit rather than Symbiote Suit sort of pushing you over the edge and like increasing your expected win rate, perhaps from very low to very high, in a way that would sort of let it win you the game. So yeah, I mentioned a couple already. Um, I ultimately, so let's see, the ones I mentioned, I still think Quicksilver is pretty close. Like even if you do the sort of efficiency math around the extra readies, like each ready gives you an additional point of value, but it still takes several points of value to add up to the average negative value of the hazard icon. And that's not even counting like the maybe 25% of games where you get like the worst negative variance out of that extra encounter card, where it is the Shadow of the Past and like the worst cards that the villain has in the deck. So Quicksilver is one where it's really close for me. I'm generally going to hedge away from it, I think.
So for Quicksilver, he can ready up, after using a basic power like once every single phase, which is why I think a lot of people would say that, Deadpool aside, Quicksilver is the best candidate, right? I think you kind of agree with that, taking out the caveat of Deadpool, Quicksilver is, good with the Symbiote Suit. Do you think that you can put Symbiote Suit in any Quicksilver deck? Or do you think that you have to actually like put other cards, and what cards would you do to make Quicksilver good?
I think Quicksilver has enough on his own where I would just consider it like um,
Oh,
a staple level card. Maybe not staple is not the right word, but just the kind of card you don't really need to build around
hmm,
in order to really make it worth it. When I'm playing Quicksilver, I am looking for other ways to ready Quicksilver as well. I think that's just generally how you play Quicksilver, either with a repurpose protection deck, getting that extra ready and the extra stat buff on top of that to take advantage of every other ready. The deck I played it in was an aggression deck, and aggression has several ways to ready your hero after you like defeat a minion, or the card surprise move gives you a free ready. So I would just consider it independently of what the rest of your deck is doing. It's generally a good fit there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm similar to you in that I'm kind of like I don't want to take that risk. So like I think I would still lean towards not putting the Symbiote Suit in Quicksilver decks, but I can definitely see the case. I mean, getting those extra activations like on both the Thor and the attack and the defense stat, I think it's very, very valuable. So yeah, that's interesting that okay, so I guess Stretch is gonna put a stamp of approval on Symbiote Suit for Quicksilver, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm still very iffy on it.
Yeah.
I sort of put it in my deck, 25% for like the video, for the content. But I think if I was just actually trying to win as high a win rate as possible, I think I would not include
Oh, okay,
the
okay.
Symbiote Suit. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay. So we're in the
Or
same
maybe
page with that.
Deadpool though. I think you're right on Deadpool.
Okay, okay. So far we're on the same page. We both agree that with Deadpool, you want to include it. It makes the Deadpool deck stronger. Quicksilver, it kind of poses a bigger risk than it does help, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
like really close. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
if someone pulls out a Quicksilver deck and plays Symbiote Suit, like I'm not gonna roll my eyes or anything.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I think it's pretty close, but
Yeah.
generally I say no.
And for sure, this is just our opinion, guys. If you guys disagree, let us know down in the comments, like why you think like maybe Symbiote is better for Quicksilver. But yeah, just to really clarify on your opinion on it, do you think that there's a way to build around Symbiote for Quicksilver, like putting like this extra raise that you're talking about, where it ever becomes like very good, like a key card in the deck, or is it still like that deck would still function better in your opinion without?
No, again, the point I was sort of trying to make is that Quicksilver is already highly incentivized to ready himself even more than what comes in his identity specific kit. Um, so if you're not building Quicksilver that way already, then yes, Symbiote Suit is even worse. But that's just how I would build
Yeah.
Quicksilver, anyways.
I think that's a good conclusion there for Quicksilver. I will move on to the next hero that you mentioned, Adam Warlock. And he is not actually a hero that I considered with the Symbiote suit, but you make a really, really good point with Soul World, because if you take, your hit points, down to one, you can Soul World back up to what, 21 hit points with Symbiote suit. That's a lot of like free attacks that you can take, right, with this activation from the building phase. So that's actually really good. But my playstyle with Adam Warlock is I find myself never using his basic activation. Like, so he has a readiness kit. I think it's called Warlock's Cape, and I think I've like never played that card. I just don't find like my Adam Warlock playstyle is more like with the Mystic Senses, triggering Battle Mage, and using allies. So like Quicksilver or not Quicksilver, Adam Warlock himself is like always stunned or confused, or like sometimes exhaust him to defend for attacks because he's a defense out of two. But with his attack stat and Thor stat, they're only one. I usually don't use that. With the Symbiote suit build with Adam Warlock, are you utilizing that, like giving him readies and stuff? Are you playing the Warlock's Cape and are you using his basic activations more? Or is it still just really with the Soul World and that resource of having those extra hit points that make it good with him?
Yeah, it's definitely more about the Soul World. Um, right, when you've got the stat buff, I mean, you'll still use your stats. I mean, Adam Warlock's activation is one of the weakest in the game because he's only got one thwart and one attack. Um, the staff, is that what it is? The karmic staff is the resource. The cape, no, yeah,
Cape,
you
yeah.
said the cape is what lets him ready. And yeah, that gets a little bit extra value when you have the symbiote suit out. But it's still a pretty low priority card to play overall because Adam Warlock's ready is not very powerful. So that's not as huge a reason of the card. Like obviously you'll still use the stat buff, like you'll attack or thwart a little more often. There's a bit of awkwardness. Yeah, and like I said, I think I come down on still probably not playing it in a try hard Adam Warlock deck.
Yeah.
But it was fun to try, and it's certainly a fun thing to do with healing up 20 hit points
Yeah.
whenever you do that.
Yeah, I think a good thing to keep in mind is, like you just said, for a tryhard deck, right? A lot of stuff we're talking about are for tryhard decks, like because you play heroic content, I like to play the higher difficulties as well. So like, if you're just wanting to have fun, guys, like it's totally fine. Like it can totally work. It can help you out. It can be a lot of fun. This is really for like tryhard deck building that like me and Stretch are really talking about right here.
Yeah, it's kind of safe. Almost anything I say, you can kind of assume I'm in that try hard, like
Yeah,
try to increase my win rate mindset.
yeah,
But when it comes to having fun, like healing for 20 with Soul World, like sounds really
yeah.
really fun.
For Adam Warlock, are there any particular cards that you will include in to support the Symbiote suit with that build? If anyone wants to try playing Adam Warlock with the suit.
Um, no, probably not. I don't think.
Oh,
Again, it's there's not really that much you can build around.
I was complete. I'm not trying to set you over or anything. I completely thought like there were like one or two cards that was like really good with the Adam Warlock like Symbiote Suit build to like make it work. So I'm shocked that you're like, oh no, there's nothing that we can add in from the aspect cards to make that better. Okay.
Well, here's a bit of my motive for decks is because I've strongly maintained this opinion for a while that Symbiote Suit is completely overrated. But I want arguments against people saying like, "Oh, well, you've never even played it, so how do you know?" Like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
put it in places where it might be set up for success. Yeah, I'm not bending over backwards for it.
Okay, cool. So that's our conclusion here for Adam Warlock with the Symbiote Suit. It's really good with Soul World, you get to heal back up, but basically nothing else. No other really good synergies there. So the next hero is a hero that you didn't mention, but this is probably after Quicksilver, the hero that's mentioned to me the most on my channel. And people are saying that I have to try this hero because I am pretty down on this hero. Maybe I actually don't know your opinion on this hero. But I don't think this hero is very strong. And I'm not a big fan of the hero either. I know that a lot of people like love this hero in terms of like it's really fun to play. So the hero is Drax. And several people, so shouts to everyone that told me that I have to play Drax in the Symbiote suit because Drax is attacking a lot. It's about his basic attack stat, right? Like that's what his knife leap, it's tied into that. So Symbiote suit gives him +1 of that. And then it helps him thwart as well, right? So like he has trouble thwarting, so that's also good for him for that. And extra hit points because he's taking tons of damage anyways, right? What do you think about Symbiote suit with Drax?
Drax is one I had not thought about. I have to admit I haven't played Drax in a very long time, but it makes sense. Like you really want to stay in hero form as long as you possibly can with Drax. And we're pretty limited in ways to add hit points or to heal while in hero form. So that makes some sense. He's a character, at least the way I have seen him built or built him in the past. Like he gives himself lots of extra readies, either with leading blow and protection, or in leadership, you can do not noble sacrifice. You got this was sort of a hot deck after the Magneto Hero Pack came out. So you can use that extra attack stat. The one right that you mentioned where he does extra attack, or he does attack equal to his attack stat. That all makes sense. I could see that adding up to being useful.
I don't know though. For me, I'm really down on it for two things. So I feel like Drax is one of the lowest economy heroes in like all of Marvel Champions. And like the turn that I'm playing in Symbiote Suit, like dude, that turn is gonna be the worst turn ever. Cause you're doing like nothing. And like you're playing none of his cards or anything. And like on a regular turn in hero form, if you don't have double resource and you draw up, because he has a hand size of 4 in hero form for anyone that hasn't played Drax. You draw the Symbiote Suit, you have 3 cards in your hand, and if you don't have a double, you're literally like you can't even play the Symbiote Suit, which would feel really, really bad. So I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I'm pretty down on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that. Certainly, like you probably wouldn't play it through your first deck. You would need to get another resource generator out, or at least be at full counters so that the attack draws you up to a fifth card. Again, I put it in the same category. One of the more fun places to use them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it lowers your expected win rate again. King Drax is a good home for it. But you are right. I mean, you're spending your entire turn to do that. So, the opportunity cost of all the other things you could be doing with then not having this, you know,
Yeah.
ball and chain throughout the rest of the
Ball and chain.
scenario. I don't know. I was trying to think. I didn't want to say speed bump because it's like every single turn, this
Yeah,
dead
yeah,
weight
yeah.
weighing you down. turn after turn. Like,
Yeah, ball and chain. I love that. I'm gonna steal that one. I'm gonna call it Symbiote Suit a ball and chain because I think that's a very good a description of it. Very funny.
okay, I think handicap is maybe a better word for what I was,
Yeah,
because I think it's hurting you to play it.
yeah. Yeah, and then another thing about for Drax, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. We like both like kind of agreeing on this is the extra hit points. It's nice, but like you mentioned earlier, you get it one time, so it's a lot of value up front. But whenever like my biggest thing with Drax is after he takes the damage, like you have to flip down to Alter Ego to heal it back up, and he loses all those vengeance counters that you like spent so much effort building. So like if you get 10 hit points and then you're facing like a villain that hits hard, like even Rhino can do like, I don't know, 7 damage in one swing. So it's like if one activation kind of like mitigates those 10 hit points already, like, and that one activation was from like the hazard icon, for example, like you get an assault off of that, then it's like already like nullified, right?
And one of the most efficient things to do in Marvel Champions is block with an ally.
Yeah.
And Drax already encourages a different play pattern than that. So you're already sort of handicapping yourself by not playing into like allies blocking for you on those attacks. But that's kind of what you need to do for Drax. So, yeah.
Really quick to anyone that's like thinking about Drax and stuff. Okay, I think that Drax is a very uniquely designed hero. I think that his design is very, very novel and very cool. He's just not my personal playstyle, which is why I'm not a big fan of him. But like, I totally respect everyone that loves playing Drax. Okay, so I got one more here that I want to talk about, and this is like my personal opinion. And I don't necessarily think that this hero is like innately good with the symbiote suit. But one of my favorite decks with this hero involves the Symbiote Suit, and I really like this build with the hero. And it's probably not going to be to any surprise to anyone that follows my channel, but it's Peter Parker's Spider-Man. The way that I play him, I usually don't really use his basic activation, similar to Adam Warlock. So even though he's on the Symbiote Suit card art, I actually think that he is one of the worser candidates for a Symbiote Suit, just because he has like the swing web kicks to do like big chunks of damage. He only has a Thor stat of 1, so it powers up to like a 2, which is like good, but like it's not like great, right? Like you want like a Thor stat of 3 after playing a Symbiote Suit. So I think that he's not necessarily like an ideal candidate, and doesn't have any readies, right? Like in his kit naturally. But I have a protection deck. It's called Webbed and Ready. So it's a protection build, and you have Ready for a Fight to access Alter Ego, and you have the new card Dr. Sinclair in the deck along with Aunt May. So basically, whenever you're flipping down to Alter Ego, which you can easily do with the Ready for a Fights, he's healing 4 from Aunt May, and he's healing 3 from Dr. Sinclair. So he's healing 7 damage like every single Alter Ego flip. And if you can do a full flip in Alter Ego, like without triggering the Ready for a Fight, you stay up in Alter Ego for the next turn and heal another 7. So the additional 10 hit points from Symbiote Suit, like actually, giving his hit points up to 20, he can easily like tank damage and heal damage back up. And I also have 3 cards of What Doesn't Kill Me in the deck as well, just because I really like the flair on that card, and also giving extras healing and the readying for that. So that is like one of my favorite builds for Peter Parker.
That sounds fun. I mean, obviously, it's the perfect flavor choice of the hero. Like, it's Peter Parker actually got the symbiote, so that makes a lot of sense. The healing, right? My first thought is, he's got, how many hit points does he start with?
10.
Does he start with 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, because I'm not sure if you're really accessing that much health that you couldn't do. I guess you'd just be playing it closer. Like, I mean, Aunt May heals you for a total of 4. Or wait, yeah, you're saying healing 7 every turn. I mean, even if you were only at 10, or maybe you play endurance and you get to like 13, like, I think you can still use that full healing every turn, or make use of the full healing even without the symbiote suit. So I'm not sure if you're really using that 10 hit points from the suit over and over again, or if you're just healing up his original hit points. What Doesn't Kill Me, that's the one that readies you and heals 2, right? Yeah. That's an extra ready, which makes a lot of sense. Take advantage of the buff. Spider-Man is sort of a uniquely positioned hero to offset the difference of extra encounter cards because of how he draws a card when he gets attacked.
Yeah.
So, there's probably like 3 to 5 extra attack activations in a villain deck. So some amount of the time he gets like an extra card rebate from the hazard icon. Sounds super fun. I probably would pass on it. I would probably play like an endurance maybe to do that and give yourself some cushion so that you can go a bit low but still take advantage of all the healing. Um, yeah, a little risky for me still.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that. So I wanted to try that deck out, and I tried against Expert Venom Goblin. Not heroic, just like regular Expert Venom Goblin. And, that's like one of the toughest scenarios in Marvel Champions. And I was able to get the win on it. So the regular deck, so I played the exact same deck against Ronin, and I think it's a pretty powerful deck with the Ready for a Fight. I think that's just one of the strongest cards in the game. And it was able to defeat, Expert Ronin. But I don't play the Symbiote Suit against extra runner. I keep it in hand or like expensive resource, right? So I'm not using the Symbiote Suit for that matchup. But for Venom Goblin, I wanted to try playing it, and I have these playthroughs, on my channel. But basically, I wanted to play at the end of the first deck pass or during the second deck pass, and I want to see how it went. Actually paying for the card and seeing if like I could still pull this off. And I was able to get the win on Venom Goblin, but I can say even with this type of build, I felt that the first deck pass, like you're struggling, or I was struggling to, catch up on Medagon because he gives you all those encounter cards. You want to try to build out your board, right? And normally, after I do that, after I'm able to, balance it back out, I can like, because I have all the economy cards that I can, go for the burst on Venom Goblin, right? But instead of doing that, I played the Symbiote Suit whenever I got like evened out and I got the advantage of Venom Goblin, and I felt that playing the Symbiote Suit cost me to like uh maybe I wasn't in a dangerous area taking the extra encounter cards to turn, but I felt that it prolonged the game like 30 minutes because it gave me so much more stuff to like deal with. And even though I could more easily deal with it with the what's and kill me, allowing people to throw for two or like swing for three, and I think there's some stat that I like checked at the end of the game. I think I took like 50 sustained damage, and I huge 50 sustained damage because of like Sinclair and Aunt May like constantly healing for 7 each time I flip down to Arc Ego. So like it was a lot of like I just took so much damage and had to like heal so much damage back up. But also there's just so many threats because of that hazard icon. I don't know. It was a very fun game, but I can't even say that. I think that if you're playing a non-Venom Gom scenario, like if you're playing, Expert Crossbones or something like that, I think that it will definitely go a lot smoother and like, maybe even feel like it's good for the deck. But I think against the higher difficulties, I don't know. I still feel like, and it's probably what you're talking about with Villain Theory too, how like the average encounter card I think is more resources in those more difficult scenarios, right? Because a Venom Goblin encounter card is probably worth more than like a Rhino encounter card or like a Claw encounter card.
Yeah, that's certainly true. So, right, in an easier scenario, right, you could maybe justify Symbiote Suit even more, or just not play it, just use it as a resource against the harder scenarios.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean I don't know. I think it was I still really like the flair of Symbiote Suit with Peter Parker, but and I think that it works well. I think there's a way to make it work. I just still think that yeah, I think it's kind of the same conclusion that as you that overall it's more of a detriment than it is helpful. Although it's definitely a positive in the fun that it provides.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Peter Spider-Man is a classic case of, just one of the strongest heroes in the game. So it can be very easy to win in spite of the symbiote suit rather than the
Yeah.
symbiote suit actually increasing your expected win rate. Um, because right, you can just out resource the villain easily with Spider-Man. So even if like symbiote suit is a net drain on your resources, you still might have plenty to win the game.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys heard it here. Stretch says Spider-Man is one of the strongest heroes in Marvel Champions.
Is that controversial? I don't know. I have free
Uh,
resource on alter ego, free at least one hero form every turn. Like you could have 15 terrible identity specific cards. Getting 2 free resources a turn would make you one of the best heroes in the game.
right? Like, okay, so I don't think it's controversial, but I get a lot of pushback on it. I'll say definitely less now, but I have gotten tons of pushback on it.
Yeah, I mean, like I value the identity card hugely. Like
Yeah.
because that you get it every turn. It's in play at the start of the game. I could definitely, if you just take his like 15 identity specific cards, that's definitely like middle of the pack. Could well, backflip is insane. The enhanced spider sense is very
Aunt
very
May,
good. So he's probably middle of the pack in terms of just like identity specific cards. but the hero card, alter ego and hero forms are tremendous. So
Yeah.
um, definitely top. I don't want to be on the spot here.
Top
We'll say
five.
top 10%. We'll
Okay,
hedge.
okay.
We'll hedge a little bit. Say top 10%
Okay,
of your.
okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have for you for the symbiote suit discussion. Is there anything else that you want to talk about for the symbiote suit?
Sure. I had a couple other thoughts of just where you might think to play it. I've not tried this myself, but there is the archetype with the pool aspect where cards pay you off for having different icons in play.
Hmm.
Um, so it does give you that hazard icon. I do think it is substantially better than the other pool aspect cards that come with the hazard icon. So if you're trying to turn that on, Symbiote Suit's probably the
Yeah.
way to do it. So I've not done that too much myself, but that's another place you could look if you're just trying to find ways to justify Symbiote Suit. The other thing I would say, this is from more of a gameplay perspective than just a deck building perspective. But if you are close enough to the end of the game where maybe you're like 2 or 3 turns away from winning, you're in a place where you can actually ignore more encounter cards. So, right, when I say that the average countering card takes 2 to 3 resources to defeat, like that's assuming you actually like defeat every encounter card, like in order to keep pace with the villain. But if there's only 2 turns left and some big side scheme comes out, like the negative impact of that side scheme over the next 2 turns might be way less than the amount of resources you would have had to put into clearing that. And then other stuff you might be able to just ignore, certain attachments, or even a minion might only activate 1 or 2 more times. So if you're thinking about like the final push, those 10 hit points might be what you need to like survive a couple attacks, stay in hero form a little bit, and then end the game.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point playing it with the pool aspect because I agree. Like getting, I mean, if you're gonna have a hazard icon that you want like just in play, getting +1 to all your stats, +1 hand slots, and +1 hit points, I think is a good payoff if you have to pick something to have the hazard icon in play. All right, so let's hop on. I have some member questions from you from the channel members. So no one
Okay.
really asked about the symbiote suit, but I have some questions for you specifically and for your channel. And I have one member in particular that's very excited. Yeah, he's been asking to have you on as a guest for a very long time.
Okay.
So yeah, first I have a question here from Zalakun. Huge shouts to Zalakun for support and for the question. Okay, so Zalakun asks, well, he's very excited to have you on here, and he says, since you primarily play in heroic mode, he wants to hear your thoughts on deck building for the difficult and the or for the hard difficulty and the extra encounters, and if you have any sort of strategies going in, knowing that you'll get those extra encounter cards.
My simplified answer to that is that all of the deck building principles you would use to build for standard or expert are the exact same for heroic. It's just like a step up in difficulty. Kind of the power level bar of your deck needs to be higher, but there's not some new strategy or like new card type that's all of a sudden better in heroic. Allies and blocking with allies is still tremendously efficient. Playing cheap, efficient resource generators is very efficient. So um, honestly, there's not a huge difference.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I actually didn't know that. So like I mean I don't really play hero games and I thought that there was much more because I know that you fine tune your decks for the scenario. And before, you do each game, you go through like what the villain does and then like specific cards you have against those villains. But I also thought that there's stuff that you put in, for those extra like essentially the extra encounter card that you're getting from heroic, right? Like something that you would do for that. So it's interesting to hear that the simplified answer is that actually it's the exact same as standard expert, just optimizing it more and going more try hard, quote unquote. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I would say probably, obviously, we know how good allies are, but you probably do play even more It's correct to play even more allies. So generally, you do want to play more allies because of how efficient blocking and attack is. So
Right.
that is an actual slight difference in
Okay.
deck building you might have.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. I also have another card that I know a lot of people are actually pretty big on, especially for like it's a common card to mention whenever you're playing against hard difficulty scenarios. And this isn't a question that I had, so I actually don't remember the card. I think it's called Espionage. Do you know what I'm talking about? It has like Black Widow on it.
Yeah, well, so espionage is the preparation that you draw to when you surge.
Yeah, yeah, draw two cards whenever the opponent like surges on you or something, right? Is that a card that so it's a card that I kind of despise. Is that ever a card that you will include like for heroic mode? And do you think it's a good card for that mode?
I would never play that card. No, it's you're paying 2 ER to draw 2 cards later. So you have absolutely zero and no positive value.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's just my own personal question there because I was wondering what you
Okay.
would think on that card. Um, okay, and then yeah, I have a question here, a couple questions from Nar Antlers. So huge shouts to Nar Antlers. He's been asking this for a very long time. You're one of his favorite YouTubers, like all time. So he is very, very hyped
Oh
for
no.
this.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. Shout out Gnarled Antlers. He comments on a lot of my stuff as well.
Yes, huge shots to Art Antlers. He's a very great guy, very fun guy. Okay, so he's stoked for this, and he wants for me to discuss that he noticed that you have a Domino pool deck published on your like Stretch Marvel CDB account or something like that, and then you don't have a Domino gameplay yet. So is this like in the woodworks? Like, when are you gonna do your heroic Domino build, and is it gonna be in the pool aspect?
My current trajectory is to do Civil Wars coming out fairly soon, and then probably next evolution after that. So it's coming up. I have mapped out all of the matchups that I want to do. I haven't put pool in anywhere else, just because there's not a ton of deck building variety that you get with pool,
Hmm.
um, especially ways that like maximize what the hero is doing. And so I didn't put it as pool for now, but I could consider it if there is a market for that, if the people want it.
Yeah, yeah. Let us know down in comments. Do you want Stretch to play Domino Pool? And yeah, just for anyone that doesn't know, like Nar Antlers, his favorite hero is Domino. He loves Domino, so that's why he's super hyped to see you play Domino. Nar has another question here about he had me play gameplay request Domino in next evolution. It's like a pseudo campaign. And I don't know if you know about, there's a campaign card. It's like a resource card. It's a double wild resource. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like pouches.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, yeah. So basically, he wanted me to experience it, and it was tons of fun. But it's basically Luck Be a Lady is a domino event. It's a one cost event. You just card top of your deck, and then for each printed resources on it, you can do one of the corresponding effects. And domino makes wilds count as twice, so it's 4 wilds effectively. So you can pick the one and do 3 damage. So then it's like 12 damage with a one cost card, like basically, right? So 2 ER for 12 damage, which is like pretty fun and crazy. But Dom
Hmm.
doesn't have that wild like in her like deck naturally, and there are no printed double wilds in the game that you can just include in the deck. So I had to do the campaign in order to do that. But he wanted me to ask about that and with PvP because Captain Marvel, we're not sure how PvP works yet. It's still not out at the time of this video. But basically, with the Captain Marvel leader, there's a way to get a double wild resource into your deck. So, what do you think about that? Luck Be Lady Domino, double wild resource, Captain Marvel leader in PvP, I guess.
That is so many things I've never even spent 1 second thinking about. So I'm not. I haven't really been keeping up with what the PvP is yet. I was going to kind of wait for it to come, take it all in at once with all the cards in front of me. Um, so I mean, the combo makes sense. I believe it because she counts every wild as two, right?
Yeah,
She doesn't like just add one.
yeah.
So you can do that. Makes a lot of sense. I have not. I barely even know how the PvP works. I have thought even less about what might be good. So I don't really have a good answer for that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's fair. Yeah, Naro is very much anticipation for PvP, and I think a lot of us, Naro included, are we're hyped to see you play PvP because you're a heroic player. And then Naro also wanted to ask about your top ER cards from more recent releases, and when Part 3 will be coming out for your Advanced Theory series. Can you give us a teaser for those?
I don't know if that top ER cards. I don't know if that's like top player cards or something.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
I
you're
don't
doing
know.
it for like Winter Soldier. It's like the top five card. I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so every time a pack comes out, I like to basically a player card review. Because that's always like more exciting to me than the actual like, new hero. I mean, top ones recently. I mean, Ready for a Fight. I called it a paradigm changing card
Yeah.
for protection. So that card is really excellent. Strength and diversity in solo. Kind of the thing I've always felt was missing from leadership was like something efficient to do that was not playing an ally, because eventually you get two or three you get your ally slots full, and it's hard to sort of keep playing things from hand without sacrificing your allies. And strength and diversity is just like the perfect event to play from hand in the mid to late game. So as I look forward to my eventual clash against Ronin on heroic, my current thought is to play a spider ham strength and diversity deck.
Mm.
uh, Seems like the strongest. That's my opinion for the
Yeah.
strongest deck.
Yeah, strength and diversity, I think it's so unique because I don't know if this is the intention of the designers, but I agree with you. It's so strong in solo, and it gets worse at the higher player counts, in my opinion, just because the cost goes up, even though you have alliance to pay for it. But like the potential amount of traits you can get, it's also capped off, I think, by like because like I think in solo you can do like I don't know like 14 plus traits from one identity. So it's like you're gonna have more and more overlap the more identities that you have, and like the potential cap, like it's not going to be 56, you know what I mean? It's not going to be like 14 times 4 if you're doing 4 players, right? If it was, that'd be really nice. But yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know if that was design like intention of like because it seemed like it was supposed to be for multiplayer with the per player scaling and the alliance allowing other people to pay for the card, but it turned out to be really good in true solo actually.
Yeah, it doesn't quite scale super well in multiplayer.
And then Nar wanted to ask when your Advanced Theory series, when is part three coming out? Do we know? If you don't know, it's okay. But
No, I don't have a date. I'm not going to commit. It's So for those of you who don't know, so I have a planned a 5 part strategy series, basically being my just like my magnum opus on like Marvel Champions strategy, that I divided into 5 parts. And so I did the first two fairly quickly, and then it's just taken me forever to do the third, because whenever I get home, I'm like way more motivated to play a game than I am to write my script.
yeah.
So I have been writing the script. I've kind of got a little gap here before Civil War comes out that I might be able to take advantage of.
Okay, and then Nar also wanted to ask you, and I think we mentioned this, or you mentioned this a little bit earlier. He wants to see us discussing Cable as a possible probable GOAT in the context of, so I did a game with Cable versus Expert 2, Ronin, with the Infinity Gauntlet, and then he said that he's messaged you before, and then you said that you consider playing Spider-Ham for Heroic Ronin, which is what you mentioned earlier. And then, yeah, he just wants to see a discussion for either using Cable or Spireham to take on Heroic Ronin and like why, which option is better. And it seems like you think that Spireham is a better option for that.
Yeah, I think Spider Ham is going to be better. Spider Ham's resource generation is really just unmatched. Every time he takes damage, gets a tune counter that can easily generate like 3 or 4 extra resources a turn. Compared to Cable, I mean the free ready you get is like sort of 1 resource of value. Where Cable really shines is like the initial tempo, right? Because he starts with like 2 free resources of putting build support into play, and then you can go get Gray Malkin, which is an incredible generator. But Spider Ham sort of gets a lot of that for free as well, especially in the Ronin scenario. And then Spider Ham also has the cartoon physics card, which is a good answer to like Ronin's fanaticism attacks, where you can't really ally block profitably, and it might be a ton of damage. So cartoon physics, counters. I don't want to say counters, but it lines up very well against Ronin. So just I think the overall resource put from Spider Ham is what really sets him apart.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally fair. And then I think we answered the question here. Uh, any thoughts about not in heroic context, just like the strongest here in the game? Do you think it comes down to Spider-Ham and Cable? or Doctor Strange? And do you have a take on that? If not, that's okay. Putting you on a spot again.
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly that it's Spider Ham. Based off the resource generation, like I talked about it with Spider-Man earlier, it's like the identity card carries so much weight. So if you have the kind of resource generation that Spider-Ham does, right, it's hard really to argue against that in my opinion. I I was kind of surprised when people started talking about Cable being one of the heroes. Like he hadn't just when he came out and a little while into it, he hadn't really just struck me as being like the best hero. The play pattern of how you can go build support into Gray Malkin on turn one like makes him very consistent. He's basically guaranteed to get this multiple resource per turn support into play on turn one. Um, so I guess he just never struck me as like that sort of tier of a hero. Um, but he is certainly very strong. I'm just not as equipped to like I haven't played him quite enough or maybe analyzed him enough to really think about that. Doctor Strange is I know you've had lots of discourse about Doctor Strange related to your channel.
No.
I have to feel like he's a bit worse than he was considered, in the early days, because his his invocation deck is incredibly powerful. Kind of represents some extra resource generation, but I think a lot of other heroes have caught up to him. So he's still incredibly strong, especially if it's a not steady or stalwart villain. The Rings of Ragador is like incredibly busted. Like that alone, definitely still keeps him in the elite tier. I don't know if he's is number one in the game. So I might have to do some like side by side games to sort of get a better sense of that. But the other one I would maybe just contend is really high is Bishop. I think Bishop's incredibly
Oh yeah.
strong with the resource generation that you can do with him. Um, Again, just very high floor, very high ceiling hero, good stats, good, good identity specific cards. And then you just play like 15 resources and he has incredible output. So I put him in the very top tier as well.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Thank you so much, Nar Antlers, for the questions. And yeah, that's all I have for you today, Stretch. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything else that you want to mention about either Symbiote Suit or your channel or like anything else at all?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I encourage people to check out my channel if you haven't seen it before. And yeah, thanks again, Web Warrior Fanatic.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I hope you guys all enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys all in the next video.